I sit in my parents' living room, perched on the edge of the floral armchair that's occupied the same spot for 20 years. Christmas lights twinkle through the windows, reflecting off the framed family photos lining the mahogany shelves. Images of vacations, graduations, and celebrations, where my smile never quite reached my eyes. The fireplace crackles, sending warmth across the room that doesn't penetrate the chill settling in my chest. Juliet's squeal pierces the air as she tears open a small box wrapped in gold paper. Mom. Dad. It's exactly what I wanted. $4. $300 you shouldn't have. She pulls out a cream-colored Gucci Marmont bag, caressing it like a newborn. The designer logo catches the light as she bounces on her knees. 26. Going on 16. Mom beams. Only the best for our baby girl. Dad nods, satisfied. You deserve it, princess. The room goes still as I carefully unwrap my gift, a small envelope sealed with a snowflake sticker. My fingers don't tremble yet. They've had practice at this. Inside a $2 paper card with snow-capped mountains and the printed message Season's greetings. No handwritten note. No gift card. No check. My face remains composed while something deep inside shatters. 29 years of hope collapse in an instant. Across the room, Aunt Margaret catches my eye. Her mouth opens slightly, horror flashing across her features before she schools her expression. She knows, she sees. Dad checks his watch, fidgeting with the band. Traffic will be bad if we don't leave for the restaurant by 7 Hosro. Mom hurries to refill Juliet's eggnog, avoiding my gaze with practiced ease. Look how the leather catches the light, Juliet announces, parading around the living room with her new treasure. It goes with everything I own. My hands finally betray me. A slight tremor as I carefully fold the card and slip it into my pocket. A souvenir of invisibility. Earlier today, I stood in my modest Portland apartment wrapping gifts I'd selected with painful care. My teacher's salary of $57,000, stretched thin between student loans and rent, but I'd saved for months for this day. The Italian silk scarf for Mom, $180, wrapped in silver paper with a bow I'd tied 3 times to get perfect. She'll love the blue pattern, I whispered, smoothing the edges. The Parker pen for Dad, $145 engraved with his initials nestled in a velvet box. He mentioned needing a new one for client meetings. The rare art book for Juliet, $120, wrapped with a handwritten note about the exhibit we'd promised to see together. A sister promise never kept. Maybe this Christmas will finally be different, I told my reflection, as I applied mascara, careful not to smudge. Hope, that stubborn weed, still blooming after decades of frost. Now I stand smoothing my skirt as the family continues celebrating around me. Juliet snaps photos of her bag for Instagram. Dad pours another bourbon. Mom arranges cookies on a vintage platter. I think I need some fresh air, I say, my voice steady, despite the earthquake in my chest. No one looks up except Aunt Margaret, who crosses the room and touches my shoulder. Her fingers press firmly. A Morse code of understanding. You're not wrong, she whispers. You deserve so much more. I nod once, throat tight, and retrieve my coat from the hall closet. The wool scratches against my wrists as I button it methodically from bottom to top. No one notices as I walk out the front door, leaving dinner unfinished. The profound silence follows me down the porch steps across the icy walkway to my car dusted with fresh snow. The drive to Council Crest Park takes 12 minutes. I park facing the overlook. Portland's lights spread below like fallen stars. The city continues its Christmas Eve rhythms, oblivious to single-car vigils and broken traditions. When did I become so invisible to them, the words fog the windshield? Questions without answers, I remove the card from my pocket. Not just paper, but a symbol of lifelong dismissal. 29 years of hoping for equal love, compressed into a mass-produced greeting. My tears finally flow freely. Hot tracks down cold cheeks. 29 years of hoping for equal love. And now I see it will never come. The city lights blur through my tears, transforming into smeared watercolors against the night. I wonder how many others sit alone tonight, clutching evidence of their family's failure to see them. Have you ever felt invisible to those who should see you most clearly? A month has passed in silence. Only occasional calls from my family. Yet my aunt calls often to check up on me. One Tuesday after work, I spread photo albums across my living room floor. January sunlight struggling through Portland's perpetual cloud cover. 1 month since Christmas. 1 month since the $2 card. Elise Turner, archaeological dig, I whisper, tracing my finger along a photo from my 13th birthday. A supermarket sheet cake sits before me, frosting slightly melted under kitchen lights. My smile looks rehearsed. Beside it, I place another photo. Juliet's Suite 16 at the Benson Hotel. Crystal chandeliers gleaming above a 3-tiered custom cake. Dad's arm draped around her shoulders while Mom adjusts Juliet's new pearl necklace. I never realized how methodically I've documented my own erasure. College acceptance letters preserved in plastic sleeves. Mine to Portland State, with a full academic scholarship. Their notepaper clipped to the corner. You'll need to work part-time for expenses. Juliet's to fashion school with their scrolled message. We're so proud. Don't worry about anything but your studies. My fingers shake as I turn to my graduation photos. Mom and Dad arriving 20 minutes before the ceremony ended. Dad checking his watch repeatedly. Sorry we're late, honey. Juliet's preliminary fashion show needed our attention. Mom had smoothed my collar-left lipstick on my cheek and asked when I planned to start job hunting. The evidence surrounds me like archaeological artifacts of a civilization built on imbalance. I open my desk drawer and pull out a leather-bound ledger book. Inside columns of numbers track years of self-sufficiency. Student loan statements totaling $24,800 despite working 20 hours weekly at the campus bookstore for $12 an hour. An email printout from Dad. Sorry we can't help with your apartment security deposit right now. Next to it, a newspaper clipping about Juliet's fashion school. Tuition $38,000 per year, plus $20,000 for her essential study program in Milan. The figures burn in my vision like accusing neon signs. My current rent statement, $200 monthly, for a 1-bedroom apartment with unreliable heating. Juliet's Instagram post about her new downtown luxury apartment. Blessed family support. Rent $800. Fully funded. My phone buzzes. Focusing instead on a stack of family birthday cards. Mom's handwriting across multiple years. Elise. I retrieve my journal from the nightstand and carefully place the card inside. Beneath it, I write in deliberate letters, "The last time I'll beg for love." My phone buzzes again with a family group chat notification. I open settings and silence it. Done. Another text from Mom. Casual dinner Sunday. Your father's grilling steaks. I type. Sorry, I have plans. No elaborate excuse. No promise to reschedule. Juliet calls next. Elise, can you help me move into my new place next weekend? Mom and Dad are busy with some financial thing. My finger hovers over the screen. The old Elise would rearrange her schedule, would show up with coffee and donuts, would spend hours assembling IKEA furniture while Juliet directed from the sidelines. I'm not available. I text back. Good luck with the move. 3 dots appear as she types. Disappear, reappear. Finally, what's wrong with you lately? I take a deep breath and type what might be the most honest message I've ever sent. I need some time away from family gatherings. The response is immediate. Mom's going to be upset. I set the phone down without replying. For once, that's not my responsibility. Standing before my bathroom mirror, I study my reflection. The same hazel eyes, the same straight nose, the same person who has spent 29 years hoping for equal footing. When does hope become self-destruction? I ask my reflection. Back at my journal, I write another question. What would I tell my students if they were treated this way? The answer comes with startling clarity. I would tell them they deserve respect. I would tell them love shouldn't require constant proof of worthiness. I would tell them that sometimes the family we're born into isn't equipped to see our value. I close the photo albums, tuck away the ledger of financial inequities, and stack everything neatly in a storage box. Not to forget to preserve the evidence. To remind myself on weekdays that this isn't imagined, this isn't overreaction. The pattern is real. The eraser is documented, and for the first time I'm allowing myself to see it clearly. When did you realize a painful pattern in your life needed to change? 6 weeks later. I am already into the new job position, and I am completely focused only on myself. The sun streams through the windows of the pottery studio as I sink my fingers into cool clay. The wheel spins my hand's guide, and something beautiful emerges from nothing. I've been coming here every Saturday morning for 6 weeks straight. The $250 receipt for the course pinned to my kitchen calendar with a magnet that declares investment in myself. "You've got a natural feel for this, Elise," says Miranda, the instructor. Her silver-streaked hair falls across her face as she leans over to examine my work. Most beginners fight the clay. You're learning to collaborate with it. The metaphor isn't lost on me. For 29 years, I've been fighting against my family's perception of me instead of building something new with the materials at hand. "Thank you," I say, applying gentle pressure to form the lip of what will become a serving bowl. I'm trying to be more patient with the process, not just with clay, but with myself. The words from yesterday's therapy session echo in my mind, as clearly as if Dr. Williams were standing beside me. Your worth isn't measured by their recognition. $90 per session. Money I once would have spent on elaborate gifts for people who never appreciated them. Now those funds build my interior landscape instead. Last night, I removed the last family photo from my living room wall. The space now holds 3 framed prints I selected from a local artist. Images of solitary trees standing strong against stormy skies. My bookshelf has transformed too, filling with volumes I've chosen for myself, rather than the literary classics my father insisted represented cultured people. My phone buzzes. Mother's name appears on the screen with her weekly attempt to restore the old dynamics. "Elise, dear, I was thinking you should host Easter dinner this year. Juliet is so busy with her new project, and it would give you a chance to show everyone your cooking skills." The ellipsis in her voice carries the weight of unspoken judgment. 3 months ago, I would have agreed immediately, desperate to prove my worth through perfect boiled eggs, a spotless apartment. Today I set down my clay-covered hands and type a simple response. I'm not available to host Easter this year. I have prior commitments. No explanation, no apology, just a boundary. Clear as the line between wet clay and dry table. "Very nice," says Miranda, nodding at my bowl. "You're finding your center. I am in more ways than one." Monday morning brings unexpected validation at school. Principal Harrington calls me into his office, sliding my teacher evaluation across his desk with a rare smile warming his typically stern face. "This is exceptional work, Elise. The student responses to your creative writing unit were remarkable. I've never seen engagement numbers like these." I accept the folder, scanning the comments from students. One jumps out. Miss Turner's assignment about writing our life story from a different perspective changed how I see myself. I never thought about being the hero instead of the victim. The words land in my chest like a warm stone. All those years feeling invisible, and here I am helping others see themselves more clearly. There's something else. Principal Harrington continues. "We need someone to lead the summer writing program. Your independent spirit is exactly what we need. It comes with a stipend, of course. The word independent no longer stings as it once did when my mother used it to justify her neglect. Now it carries the weight of respect." "I'd be honored," I reply, straightening my shoulders. That afternoon, I receive an email inviting me to present at a regional education conference. My finger hovers over the delete button. My first instinct to assume it's been sent to me by mistake. Then I remember Dr. Williams's words, "Assume you deserve good things until proven otherwise." I click accept instead. Later that evening, I open my banking app and transfer $500 into the account labeled Home Down Payment. The first deposit of many a home that will truly be mine, not a space I occupy at the edges of someone else's life. The phone rings at midnight. Juliet's sobbing voice fills my ear before I can even say hello. He broke up with me, Elise. I can't believe it. Derrick just walked out after dinner. I need you to come over. I can't be alone right now. The old Elise would have jumped from bed, thrown on clothes, and driven across town at unsafe speeds to comfort her sister. The woman I'm becoming takes a breath. I'm so sorry that happened, Juliet. I can talk tomorrow during my lunch break. What I need you now. This is serious. I understand you're hurting. I'm available at noon tomorrow. My time matters, too. The shocked silence stretches between us. A new territory neither of us has mapped before. I guess I could wait until tomorrow, Juliet finally whispers. Then something I've never heard from her before. I'm sorry, Elise. I didn't think about what time it'd hang up. I lie awake, half expecting the follow-up call from Mother, outraged at my selfishness. It comes at 1:07 p.m., her angry voice filling my voicemail with familiar accusations. I delete it without listening to the end. In weeks to come, my support network expands like ripples in still water. Robert, the history teacher whose classroom sits across from mine, stops by my desk after the final bell. I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner Friday. He says, his hands fidgeting with a paperclip. Just as friends, but I've always admired your dedication to your students. Aunt Margaret arrives for a weekend visit, unfolding grandmother's quilt across my bed with reverent hands. She always saw your light, Elise. Even when others didn't. Margaret says, smoothing the faded fabric. She left this specifically for you because she knew you'd appreciate its story. My pottery classmates organize a hiking trip to Mount Hood. My therapist notes how my posture has changed, opening like a flower turning towards sun. At a staff meeting, when the athletic director dismisses my suggestion about incorporating creative writing into physical education, my colleague Sandra speaks up. Elise has been saying this for years. The research supports her approach. The family group text pings with Cousin Caleb's wedding announcement for June. Everyone responds with enthusiastic acceptance. I type simply, I'll attend, but I'll drive separately. Mother's private text arrives within minutes. Why are you being difficult? I consider a dozen responses before settling on truth without malice. Setting healthy boundaries isn't being difficult. In my calendar, I created the entry. Wedding 2 hours maximum. Bring Robert. We've been dating for a while. The balcony garden I've started flourishes with herbs and native wildflowers. As evening light filters through the leaves, I sit with my journal open on my lap. The pages contain fewer questions, now more declarations. Today, growth requires both distance and nourishment. My fingers, still faintly stained with clay, trace the words. What seeds of self-respect are you ready to plant in your own life? The question rises unbidden as I watch a bee navigate between blossoms, purposeful in its journey. The answer blooms within me, stronger than any doubt could overwhelm ones that will finally allow me to thrive. And in months to come, I will finally show my family who I am. On the day of the wedding, 3 months later, I step out of Robert's car, smoothing the fabric of my sage green dress. The simple silk falls just below my knees, affordable elegance that took 3 months of careful budgeting. You look beautiful, Robert whispers, his hand finding the small of my back. The country club sprawls before us, manicured lawns stretching toward Mount Hood in the distance. Cousin Caleb chose well for his wedding venue, though I wonder how Uncle George afforded it on his hardware store income. Ready, Robert asks. I nod more truthfully than I've ever been. 6 months of therapy and boundary setting have armored me for this family gathering. Juliet spots us immediately, waving frantically from the entrance. Her sequined cocktail dress catches the afternoon sunlight, sending prisms dancing across the pavement. Too formal for a garden wedding, but that's Juliet always one notch above appropriate. Elise, you actually came. She air kisses near my cheek, perfume clouding between us. And you brought a friend. Robert Thompson, he says, extending his hand. Elise's colleague. And more, I add firmly. We've been dating for 3 months. Juliet's perfectly plucked eyebrows rise. Mom didn't mention that. Mom doesn't know everything about my life anymore. Before she can respond, Mom appears, her smile, stretched thin as worn elastic. Her eyes dart between us, landing on my simple gold necklace, the dress, Robert's steady presence. Elise, darling. Her hug feels mechanical. Your apartment must be getting cramped with company these days. Have you thought about upgrading? The old familiar sting threatens, but I breathe through it. My apartment suits me perfectly. Dad approaches, tugging at his collar. The suit hangs looser than I remember. There's my independent girl, he says, patting my shoulder awkwardly. Your apartment must be getting too small for you now. Same script, different Turner. I simply smile. Aunt Margaret rescues me, swooping in with a genuine embrace. Look at you, she whispers, standing tall. She glances over her shoulder before adding, your parents are having financial troubles. Thomas's investments tanked. The ceremony passes in a blur of white tulle and promises. During the reception, I notice details that would have escaped me before. Dad arguing with the photographer in harsh whispers about payment terms. Mom's handbag, not her usual Prada, but a well-worn leather clutch with a small scuff on the corner. And most telling, Juliet's panicked expression when the bartender returns her credit card, shaking his head. The garden behind the reception hall offers temporary escape. Roses climb trellises, their June blooms heavy with perfume. I breathe deeply, counting backward from 10. Dr. Williams' technique for processing surprise without reaction. Running away again. I turn to find Juliet, her mascara slightly smudged at the corners. Taking a moment, I correct her. The difference matters. She slumps onto a stone bench, unexpectedly graceless. You're different now. Yes. I realized how unfair everything was. The words tumble out unpracticed. I'm sorry, Elise. I wait. Years of experience teaching me that Juliet's apologies often come with conditions. They can't support me anymore. She continues, voice cracking. Dad's business is collapsing. The condo's being sold. My credit cards are maxed out. I sit beside her, maintaining careful inches between us. That sounds difficult. I never learned to stand on my own like you did. A tear tracks through her foundation. I don't know how to live on what I actually earn. The sunset paints the garden in amber light, turning Juliet's sequins into tiny flames. We sit in silence, the first comfortable quiet between us since childhood. Back inside, Dad corners me near the cake table. You've always been good with finances, he begins, voice unusually hesitant. Teachers have excellent retirement planning skills. I sip my champagne, waiting. We might need some advice. Family helping family, you know. Before I can respond, relatives swarm around us. Elise heard you got department head. Uncle George booms. Always knew you'd be successful. Mom appears at my elbow. Elise was always our practical one, she says, her fingers nervously twisting her wedding band. So responsible. Across the room, Robert chats with his sister who drove up from Salem. She's the most respected teacher at her school. I overhear him say, pride warming his voice. Juliet approaches, subdued. Do you know about affordable apartments in Portland, maybe with roommates? The irony isn't lost on me. After years of invisibility, suddenly everyone sees me not for who I am, but for what I might provide. When Dad mentions temporary family assistance later, I maintain polite distance without cruelty. I'm not in a position to help financially. I tell him directly. My budget is carefully balanced with my own needs. To Juliet, I offer what she actually needs. Start with a budget and roommates. It's how I survived my first 3 years teaching. 2. Mom attempts guilt. Her specialty. We always supported you. Emotionally or financially, I ask quietly. Her silence answers more truthfully than words could. At 9, I find Robert by the bar. Ready to leave, I ask. The relief in his eyes mirrors my own. Whenever you are. We slip away during the bouquet toss, driving toward Cannon Beach, rather than returning to Portland. The night air carries salt and freedom as we walk barefoot along the shoreline, shoes dangling from our fingers. You handled that beautifully, Robert says. I watch the moonlight ripple across the Pacific. Sometimes the greatest gift is seeing clearly. The waves crash and retreat, a rhythm older than family patterns. I wonder how many others have found strength in walking away from expectations that never served them, choosing instead the uncertain path of self-respect. The ocean doesn't answer, but somehow I no longer need it to. A week after the wedding, I arrived at my parents' house exactly at 6, parking my Honda next to Dad's Lexus that now shows patches of rust around the wheel wells. 2 hours. That's all I've allocated for this important family discussion. My watch timer is already set. The front porch light flickers weakly as I approach. No Christmas wreath adorns the door this June evening, but the familiar weight of expectation hangs heavy in the spring air. I knock instead of using my key. Mom answers, her smile too bright, her hug too tight. Elise, you look wonderful. That promotion agrees with you. I step into the living room where the furniture seems oddly rearranged. The Italian leather sectional has vanished, replaced by a generic beige sofa. Family photos still line the walls, but the expensive crystal vase that normally dominates the coffee table is missing. Dad rises from his armchair, his shoulders slightly stooped, punctual as always, Elise. I have a morning staff meeting tomorrow, I explain. I can stay until 8. Juliet sits in the corner armchair, her fingers twisting in her lap. She offers a small wave but remains unusually quiet. Mom bustles in with a tray of coffee cups. I made your favorite lemon cookies. Family needs to stick together during challenging times. Dad begins without preamble. He paces before the fireplace where no fire burns despite the evening chill. The Turner name has always stood for something in this community. Mom sits beside me, her hand reaching for mine. We've always been so proud of you, Elise. Your independence, your determination, that teaching award. You've never needed much from us. My skin prickles with familiar recognition. The script hasn't changed, just the circumstances. I sip my coffee and wait. The market downturn has been particularly brutal for the investment firm. Dad continues, his voice straining for its usual authority. Our portfolio, well, there have been significant losses. The bank has been calling about the mortgage. Mom adds, her voice dropping to a whisper. We might lose the house. Dad clears his throat. Juliet's lease renewal is coming up next month. That downtown apartment complex raised the rates again. Mom squeezes my hand. We noticed your school district announced that new department head position, the one with the substantial raise. The pieces click into place with perfect clarity. I set my coffee cup down carefully on the table. We're just wondering if you might temporarily help with Juliet's expenses. Dad says the word temporarily, stretching thin between us, just until things stabilize. Family helping family, Mom adds, her smile wobbling. You've always been our rock. The room falls silent. Juliet studies her expensive manicure, shame coloring her cheeks. I need to say something that's long overdue. My voice sounds steadier than I feel. I reach into my purse and withdraw the Christmas card, now slightly worn at the edges from the months I've carried it. I place it on the coffee table. This was the moment I finally saw the truth. Dad glances at the card dismissively. A Christmas card. Really, Elise? We're discussing serious financial matters here. This isn't about money. I trace the paper mountain scene with my finger. This is about 29 years of messages that I matter less. Juliet's sweet 16 at the Benson Hotel, while my 13th birthday was celebrated with a grocery store cake. My college scholarship with your note that I should work part-time while you fully funded Juliet's fashion school and her semester in Italy. Mom's face drains of color. We never met. I don't believe you did it consciously. I continue. But it happened consistently. Every birthday, every Christmas, every milestone. That's ridiculous. Dad's face flushes with indignation. We gave you everything you needed, but never what she wanted, Juliet says suddenly. All eyes turn to her. She's right. We've always treated her as less important. I've watched it my whole life and benefited from it. Dad's mouth opens, then closes. the foundation of family mythology cracks visibly before my eyes. This isn't about punishing anyone. I say, but if we want a relationship moving forward, it starts with respect and equality. So you won't help your sister mom's tears spill freely now. Genuine rather than strategic. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I won't be the family's financial solution while the pattern continues. I won't fund Juliet's luxury apartment when I've struggled to afford my own place. I won't contribute to a dynamic where I give everything and receive nothing. After all we've done for you. Dad's voice rises sharply, revealing his true expectations. This is how you repay us. I'm offering something better than money. I reply, my voice level. I'm offering honesty. I'm offering the chance for a relationship built on mutual respect rather than obligation. She doesn't owe us, Juliet says quietly. None of this is her responsibility. The silence that follows feels like the first honest moment we've shared in decades. I stand smoothing my skirt. I need acknowledgement of what's happened. I need my boundaries respected. I'm willing to help Juliet find an affordable apartment, create a budget, apply for jobs, but I won't sacrifice my financial security or self-respect. Mom's shoulders shake with silent sobs. Dad stares out the window, his back rigid with pride. Think about what I've said. I gather my purse. I'll let myself out. The night air feels cleansing as I walk to my car. Stars pierce the darkness overhead. Witnesses to a truth finally spoken. I realize, starting the engine, that the truth doesn't need to be harsh to be powerful. It simply needs to be spoken. What truth have you needed to speak? Even when others weren't ready to hear it, I unlock the door to my new Portland condo. The key sliding into place with a satisfying click. 1 year after that Christmas revelation, my life stands transformed not by what others gave me, but by what I finally gave myself permission to matter. Last box. Robert announces, setting a cardboard container labeled books on the bamboo floor I selected myself. His steady presence these past months has become a comfort I never knew I needed. Not rescue, but partnership. I trace my fingers along the framed house key mounted on the entryway wall. Beneath it, a simple plaque reads $18,000, the price of freedom. Each dollar representing months of overtime, careful budgeting, and saying no to family expectations that once consumed me. Department head looks good on you, Aunt Margaret remarks, arranging wild flowers in a ceramic vase I created in pottery. Class. She touches my shoulder, her eyes crinkling with pride. You built this life brick by brick, Elise. The afternoon sun spills through windows. I spent hours selecting, casting golden rectangles across the dining table set for 4. Not a grand gathering, but an intentional one. Robert, Aunt Margaret, and Juliet will join me for dinner. My terms, my space, my boundaries intact. Dad's text message arrived this morning. Hope the move went well. 5 words, representing his struggle to navigate our new reality. Mom calls weekly now. Her conversation careful but increasingly genuine. Small steps toward what might someday become authentic connection. Juliet arrives carrying a houseplant and a bottle of mid-priced wine. Her designer bags have disappeared, replaced by sensible work attire from her first real job. The apartment hunt is going well, she says, helping me arrange plates on the table. My roommate works in accounting. She's teaching me about budgeting. Her voice holds a newfound humility that sometimes catches me off guard. Later, as Robert helps me hang curtains in the bedroom, his hands steady on the drill. He asks, "Have you thought about next summer? That cabin on Mount Hood is still available for rent." I smile, no longer afraid of future possibilities. I'd like that I answer simply. When everyone leaves, I prepare for my first night alone in my new home. I place the Christmas card, that $2 catalyst, for change in a simple frame on my desk. What once symbolized invisibility now represents strength discovered through pain. I open my journal, running my hands across a blank page before writing. Worth is inherent, not earned or granted by others. At school, a young teacher sought me out yesterday. tears streaming down her face after a family gathering where her achievements were dismissed. I recognize that wounded look all too well. Your boundaries aren't selfish. I told her, offering tissues and the validation I once desperately needed myself. My savings account grows steadily, now labeled Future Dreams instead of Emergency Fund. The local pottery studio called yesterday about displaying my pieces next month. From my small balcony, I watched the Portland sunset paint the sky in watercolor hues. 1 year ago, I sat in my car sobbing over a meaningless card. Tonight, I stand surrounded by a life built on my own terms. The gift I whispered to the evening air was finding myself. I close my journal, no longer needing external validation to know my value. Turning off the porch light, I walk into rooms furnished with intention and self-respect. Love that must be earned isn't love at all. Story 2. The chandelier in the White Family Country Club dining room catches the afternoon light just right, sending fractured rainbows across mahogany that costs more than most people's cars. I watch dust mow us drift through Elainer's cloud of Chanel No. 5. As I follow the mantra to what he calls the family table, with that knowing smile he reserves for people about to get bad news over good wine. Arthur checks his Rolex before I even sit down. Third time in 30 seconds. Eleanor adjusts her pearls with the precise motion of someone who has practiced this gesture in a mirror. Meredith positions her iPhone at an angle that would make a film student proud, her smile sharp enough to draw blood. Everyone in their assigned seats. Everyone playing their part in whatever intervention they've rehearsed. Rebecca. Eleanor's voice has that particular warmth she uses when she wants something. You look lovely, darling. I'm wearing the same gray sweater I wore last Tuesday. She didn't notice it then either. I sit in the chair, or the metro pulls out. The one that faces all three of them like I'm about to defend a dissertation to a hostile committee. The leather cacks. Someone in the kitchen drops a pan. Normal sounds in a very abnormal moment. Eleanor slides a slim velvet box across the table. The kind of box that usually holds jewelry. Her fingers leave it positioned exactly between the salt and pepper shakers, perfectly aligned with the table's edge. A fresh start, darling. We think you'll adore Austin. I open the box. One-way plane ticket. Departure in 48 hours. Arthur places a check beside it with surgical precision. His banker hands steady. Your seed, Rebecca. $5,000. Use it wisely. The check is already signed, already dated. They printed it before I even arrived. Meredith shifts her phone a fraction of an inch to the left, getting my face in better light. Her Yale Law Review editor's smile widens. She's been waiting for this moment. Probably planned which filter she'll use when she posts the video. I recognize this performance, this synchronized movements, the rehearsed lines. They've been planning this for months and I'm supposed to crumble right on cue. My mind drifts back to last year, the annual White Family Charity Gala at the Ritz-Carlton. I'd come straight from TerraSense field testing and hadn't had time to change. My hiking boots were still a bit dusty. I thought they'd understand. I thought maybe this one time my work would matter more than appearances. Harrison Blackwood cornered me near the champagne fountain. Arthur's most important client, the one who controls half of Arthur's quarterly bonuses. His laugh cut through the string quartet. Arthur, I didn't know you hired the garden staff for your parties. Arthur's face drained white. Eleanor's hand found my elbow, later her fingers digging in hard enough to leave marks. You humiliated this family, Rebecca. It will not happen again. That was the night they decided. I could see, eye to eye in the glance, Arthur and Eleanor exchanged over their champagne flutes. The Austin exile crystallized in that moment, fully formed. The pattern started long before that, though. I was 8 when Meredith's piano recital overlapped with my science fair. I'd won first place, created a working water filtration system from household materials. Miss Peterson said it was the most advanced project she'd seen in 20 years of teaching. Rebecca understands, sacrifice, Arthur told me in the car. We were driving to Meredith's recital. My trophy stayed home on the kitchen counter. I understood sacrifice. I understood that debate team got canceled so Meredith could have mock trial. That internships got declined because family obligations always met Meredith's needs. That my environmental science degree was expensive charity work while her Yale law acceptance was framed in the dining room. I understood that I was the daughter who just didn't quite fit. Eleanor watches me now, waiting for tears. Arthur's already reaching for his water glass, preparing his tough love speech. Meredith's thumb hovers over the record button. I let the silence stretch. Let them savor it. Let them think they've won. Thank you. My voice stays level. Steady. I'll be smart with it. Arthur's shoulders drop. Ella Leonard's smile turns genuine. The Rebecca problem finally solved. Meredith's disappointment flickers across her face. No tears for her video. No drama for her Instagram story. I fold the check with deliberate care, crease it once and slip it into my purse. The paper is thick, expensive, the kind of check Arthur uses for important transactions. They don't know about the wire transfer. $8, $500, $1,000. Confirmed 48 hours ago. Sitting in my account while they hand me $5,000. Like it's a fortune. They don't know that Julian Vance Agricor's CEO called me personally, that Professor Kalin forwarded my recovery data to the Agrarch Summit, that their daughter, the embarrassment, the one who doesn't quite fit, built something worth buying. Arthur raises his wine glass to fresh starts. I raise my water glass and smile. Let them think it's gratitude. It's not. 6 months before the Velvet Box and the Austin ticket, I sat in Professor Kalin's office at Stanford while he demolished my TerraSense proposal with the kind of precision surgeons use to remove tumors. The idea is fine, Rebecca. He tapped his pen against my printed presentation. 3 months of work reduced to 18 stapled pages, but the data is thin. This is just a class project. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Someone's coffee maker beeped down the hall. Normal sounds in a moment that felt like falling. I'd expected pushback. Questions about methodology. Concerns about scalability, not dismissal. What would make it more than a class project? Professor Kalin leaned back in his chair. Field data. Real-world application. Proof that your algorithm works outside a controlled environment. He slid the proposal back across his desk. Right now you have theory. Investors want results. I walked back to my apartment through campus, past students celebrating the end of finals, past the coffee shop where Meredith and I used to study before she transferred to Yale. The proposal felt heavier in my backpack than it should. Theory, just a class project. I'd heard variations of those words my whole life. From Arthur when I chose environmental science over economics. From Eleanor when I explained carbon sequestration instead of discussing wedding venues like Meredith. From every family dinner where my research became background noise to Meredith's latest achievement. But Professor Kalin wasn't family. He didn't have a stake in my failure, which meant he was right. I spent the next 3 weeks living in the university library, surviving on vending machine coffee, and the kind of determination that comes from being underestimated your entire life. The Callaway Innovation Grant application wanted 12 pages. I gave them 30. They wanted 1 recommendation letter. I secured 4. They wanted a budget breakdown. I built a full financial projection model. The acceptance email arrived at 2 a.m. $75,000. I called home from the empty lab too, excited to wait for morning. Eleanor answered on the 4th ring. That's nice, dear. Her voice sounded distant, distracted. Listen, Meredith just made Yale Law Review. Can you believe it? The youngest editor in 15 years. Mom, I won the Callaway grant. It's one of the most competitive. That's wonderful, Rebecca. I need to go. Your father is on the other line with the Yale Alumni Association. The click of disconnection echoed in Stanford's empty lab. Fluorescent lights hummed. My laptop screen glowed with the acceptance email. $75,000 of validation that couldn't compete with Meredith's latest trophy. I looked at my Terence proposal, at 3 weeks of sleepless work at proof that I could build something real. Then I got to work. The grant money went to an outsourced development team in Bangalore carefully selected after weeks of interviews. Every contract specified my sole ownership of the intellectual property. Every line of code got documented, time-stamped, backed up in triplicate. I hired David Morrison, a part-time data analyst, who worked evenings and weekends piecing together the sensor network while teaching high school physics during the day. Professor Kalin stopped by the lab one evening, found me, elbow-deep in calibration protocols. "You're serious about this? You said I needed field data." I didn't look up from my laptop. "I'm getting field data." 3 months later, I had my pilot program. A small family farm outside Fresno, third-generation operation, desperate enough to try an unproven system from a Stanford student who promised better irrigation efficiency. The algorithm went live on a Tuesday morning in March. By Thursday afternoon, I knew something was wrong. The soil moisture readings fluctuated wildly. The irrigation schedule triggered at incorrect intervals. I watched from my laptop as 30% of their test crop drowned in water my system had insisted they needed. The farmer's voice stayed level when he called. Controlled. The kind of control that comes from watching your livelihood die in real time. "We're shutting it down, Rebecca. Give me 48 hours. I can fix this. You've had 3 months. The crop doesn't get 48 hours. I sat in the lab, surrounded by failure data, watching my grant money hemorrhage into a flooded field outside Fresno. Every sensor reading, every irrigation, trigger every algorithmic decision that had destroyed someone's harvest. Arthur's voicemail arrived that evening. He'd heard about the farm through his network. Of course he had. Bad news travels fast in circles where reputation matters more than recovery. "Rebecca, it's your father. I heard about your little agricultural experiment. Perhaps it's time to consider something more suitable. Give me a call." He didn't sound surprised. He sounded relieved. Eleanor's text came next. "Darling, there's no shame in trying. Not everyone is meant for entrepreneurship." Then Meredith. 3 crying, laughing emojis, followed by "heard you drown some vegetables." I turned off my phone, pulled up the failure log, started reading. Somewhere in 3 months of code and thousands of lines of predictive modeling was the error that had cost a farmer 30% of his crop and validated every dismissive word my family had ever said about me. The lab became my home for the next 3 weeks. I ordered Thai food. I didn't eat made coffee. I forgot to drink, slept 2 hours in the desk chair, and woke up with sensor specifications imprinted on my cheek. I found the error at 2:30 on a Wednesday morning. Single flawed line in the moisture prediction algorithm. A variable initialization error, so small, so elegant in its destructiveness, that I almost admired it. I rebuilt the entire system from the ground up. The new algorithm emerged 40% more efficient than my original projections. The recovery data showed something I hadn't anticipated: system resilience. Proof that the platform could identify its own errors, adapt, and improve. I sent the updated analysis to Professor Kalin at 4 in the morning. His response arrived an hour later. Conference room 9:00 a.m. Bring everything. When I walked in carrying 3 months of recovery data, he looked at my findings for 7 minutes, without speaking. Then he picked up his phone and started dialing. "I'm getting you a presentation slot at the AGERC Summit," he said. "Don't make me regret this." Julian Vance sat in the 3rd row during my presentation taking notes. Notes while I explained how catastrophic failure had produced a stronger system. How the recovery logs proved adaptive resilience. How Terrace wasn't just functional anymore. It was revolutionary. His technical team called me 2 days later. 4 senior engineers, on the line interrogating every line of code, every data point, every projection. I'd spent 6 months documenting everything. Every decision, every setback, every breakthrough. My meticulous records became my greatest asset. The acquisition offer arrived 24 hours after that call. $8, $500, $1,000. Director of Sustainable Development at Agricor's Chicago headquarters. I saved the wire transfer confirmation, but didn't tell anyone. Not Professor Kalin, not David Morrison, certainly not my family. That secret felt like power, like proof, like everything they'd never believed I could build. The dessert arrives in a crystal dish, the kind that catches light and throws it back like tiny accusations. Crème brûlée. My favorite, according to Eleanor. Though I've hated the texture since I was 12. She never noticed when I'd push it around the plate at family dinners, creating patterns in the burnt sugar crust. Instead of eating, I lift my spoon. The sugar cracks with a sound that feels too loud in the careful quiet of our table. Arthur leans back in his chair, the leather creaking under his weight. He's moving into speech mode. I can tell by the way he adjusts his cufflinks first, then his collar, the same ritual he uses before client presentations. Rebecca, your mother and I have given this a great deal of thought. His voice carries that boardroom authority, the one that closes deals and ends discussions. Sometimes tough love is the greatest gift a parent can give. You need to find your own path without the shadow of family expectations. The irony would be funny if it weren't so perfectly on brand. Family expectations are the only thing they've ever given me. Eleanor dabs at her eyes with a napkin that probably costs $40. Her tears are perfectly timed, perfectly placed. Not enough to smudge her mascara, just enough to glisten. We want what's best for you, darling. A fresh start where you can really discover who you're meant to be, who I'm meant to be. As if I haven't already discovered that in a Stanford lab at 3:00 in the morning, rewriting code until my eyes burned. As if I haven't already become exactly who I'm meant to be, and they just couldn't see it. Meredith's smile stretches wider. She stopped trying to hide her satisfaction. Her phone sits on the table now, recording openly, getting every angle of my supposed defeat. She'll edit this later. Add a soundtrack maybe. Something inspirational about family and second chances. This is exactly what I needed, I tell them. My voice stays soft, grateful. Thank you for seeing what I couldn't see myself. Arthur's shoulders relax. Eleanor reaches across the table to pat my hand, her diamond rings cold against my skin. Inside my head, I'm doing math. Their $5,000 versus my $8.5 million. Their country club membership dues versus my Director of Sustainable Development salary. Their carefully constructed intervention versus the wire transfer confirmation sitting in my email. Dated 2 days before this dinner even happened. I've already won. They're just too busy performing to notice. The waiter refills water glasses. Someone at the next table laughs. Life continues around us while my family orchestrates my exile, completely unaware that I'm 3 moves ahead in a game they don't even know we're playing. There's power in this silence. Strength in letting them believe their own story. I spent 23 years trying to prove myself to people who were never going to look. Now I don't have to prove anything. I'm free. They just handed me freedom wrapped in a velvet box with a plane ticket inside. Meredith's phone buzzes. She glances down, her smile turning predatory. Posted, she murmurs, but loud enough for me to hear. Her fingers move across the screen with practice speed. My own phone vibrates in my purse. Once, twice, 10 times, in rapid succession. The family WhatsApp is erupting. I know without looking what Meredith posted. Edited clips from tonight. Probably strategic that make me look lost and them look generous. A caption about fresh starts and family support. Maybe a prayer hands emoji. The responses flood in. I can picture them. Cousin Bradley putting in a good word at my Austin firm. Marketing could be perfect for her. Aunt Patricia teaching something simple might be just the thing. Uncle James, these young people need guidance. Good for you, Arthur. The family narrative cementing in real time. Rebecca the failure. Rebecca the lost cause. Rebecca saved by family generosity. My phone vibrates again. Different pattern. Text message. Not WhatsApp. I wait until Eleanor excuses herself to greet someone across the room. Until Arthur gets pulled into a conversation about interest rates with a passing colleague. Until Meredith is distracted by her own social media engagement metrics. Then I check. Professor Kalin heard about Agricor. Don't let anyone dim this light. I close my eyes, open them. The country club chandelier still glitters. The creme brulee still sits half-eaten on expensive china. Another text arrives. Marcus Chen Chicago's lucky to have you. Drinks when you get here. Then a number I don't recognize, but the signature gives it away. Apartment viewing schedule attached. Welcome to the team. Julian Vance's office. 2 phones, 2 lives, one for the performance, one for reality. The Whites are still managing my narrative on the family WhatsApp, still posting and commenting and reshaping my story into something they can control. Still painting me as the family project, the one who needed saving. Meanwhile, Agricor's legal team is finalizing my employment contract. My apartment in Chicago has a view of Lake Michigan. Professor Kalin is recommending me for speaking engagements. Marcus is adding me to his personal network of founders who actually built something. Chosen family versus blood family. The contrast has never been clearer. Ella Lanar returns to the table, followed shortly by Arthur. Meredith finally puts her phone down, satisfied with her documentation of my downfall. Walk me to my car, Arthur asks. Not really a question. Outside the parking lot smells like money. New leather and imported cologne, and the particular scent of privilege that clings to expensive things. Ballet move between vehicles that cost more than most people make in a year. Arthur's Mercedes sits under a light gleaming black paint, reflecting our shapes back at us in distorted mirror. He turns to face me. His expression has softened into something he probably thinks looks paternal. This is for your own good, Rebecca. Someday you'll thank me. Night air is cool. I can hear other families leaving the club. Laughter car doors. The ordinary sounds of people who haven't just orchestrated an intervention over creme brulee. I already do, Dad. I meet his eyes. You've taught me exactly what I needed to learn. Confusion flickers across his face. He's trying to parse my words, looking for sarcasm or bitterness. He won't find it. I mean every word. He taught me I was on my own. He taught me that some people will never see your value no matter how much you achieve. He taught me that sometimes the greatest gift is discovering you don't need someone's approval. After all, these are lessons worth $8.5 million. Good. He clears his throat. Austin will be good for you. Fresh perspectives. I nod. Let him believe it. Back inside, Eleanor is calling Rebecca's college friends. I see her phone pressed to her ear, expressions set in concerned mother mode, explaining the intervention, controlling the story before I can tell my own version. Meredith is drafting something on her laptop now. Probably her LinkedIn post about supporting struggling family members, about the importance of tough love and family values, their closing ranks, rewriting history, making sure everyone knows their version before mine can surface. I pull out my phone and start documenting. Screenshots of the WhatsApp messages, voice memo noting the time and location of Arthur's parking lot speech, photos of the check the ticket, the velvet box, evidence data proof. Let them think they've won. Let them control their narrative for now. I'm building mine methodically, recording everything, creating a paper trail they don't even know exists. Sunday night I'll board a plane, just not the one they bought. Monday morning, Forbes will publish an article they haven't seen coming. 48 hours until detonation, until their carefully constructed story explodes into something they can't control or edit or explain away. I return to the table. Ella Lanar is crying again. Meredith is calculating her social media strategy. And I'm smiling. Really smiling, because they just handed me the greatest gift. The freedom of having nothing left to prove. Sunday morning light filters through my apartment windows, catching the dust from 2 open suitcases on my bed. I'm folding a thrift store sweater when the doorbell rings, unannounced, exactly like Eleanor. I check the peephole. There she is, holding a Starbucks cup like a prop, her Sunday brunch outfit perfectly pressed. Darling, I thought you might need help packing. She sweeps past me before I can answer, her eyes already scanning my apartment with the precision of a home inspector. Moving is so overwhelming. Overwhelming, as if I haven't orchestrated 3 international shipping containers and a corporate Relocation package in the past week. I gesture toward the suitcases. Just finishing up, Eleanor sets her coffee on my kitchen counter without using a coaster. She picks up my Stanford diploma from the pile next to the suitcase, runs one manicured finger across the frame. You won't need your diplomas in Austin, dear. Fresh starts mean leaving everything behind. The diploma is a duplicate. The real one shipped to Chicago on Tuesday. You're right, Mom. I take it from her hands. Set it back down. Fresh start. New beginning. Her smile blooms genuine. I'm so glad you understand. She moves to my closet, pulls out my interview blazer, the good one. Navy wool tailored, and this is far too formal for Austin's casual culture. That blazer is already hanging in my Chicago penthouse closet. This one came from Goodwill yesterday for $19. I was thinking the same thing. I fold it into the suitcase with deliberate care. Eleanor watches me pack thrift store jeans clearance rack, blouses, everything carefully chosen to look like my actual wardrobe. She nods approvingly at each choice, satisfied I'm dismantling my life correctly. Your father and I are so proud of how you're handling this. She perches on my bed's edge, careful not to wrinkle her linen pants. Not every young woman has the maturity to accept guidance with such grace. Grace. That's what she calls surrender. My phone buzzes. Eleanor's eyes flick toward it, but I'm faster. Julian Vance's assistant confirming my furniture delivery to the Chicago address. I silence it without reading the preview. Just the airline, I tell her. Confirming my flight. Good. She stands, smooths invisible wrinkles. I'll drive you to the airport tomorrow. Make sure you get off safely. There it is. Not maternal concern. Verification. She wants to watch me board. Watch the plane door close. Confirm the exile is complete. That's really thoughtful, Mom. Her coffee sits abandoned on my counter. Lipstick stain on the rim. She doesn't drink it. Didn't come here for coffee. After she leaves, I sit on my bed surrounded by suitcases full of someone else's clothes. The Austin boarding pass sits on my nightstand, purchased with my own credit card printed at home. It will never be scanned. My real flight to Chicago departs 3 hours after the Austin flight. Different airline, different terminal. The beautiful symmetry makes me smile. They taught me this game. How to perform one reality while living another. How to let people see exactly what they expect. I just became better at it than they ever were. Monday morning, Arthur sends his email at 8:30 a.m. sharp. I watch it arrive on my phone from O'Hare's Gate B-17, waiting for my Chicago boarding call. The subject line, family update. The body brief and efficient. Rebecca has relocated to Austin for a fresh perspective. We're confident this change will provide valuable clarity for her future. Valuable clarity. His code for cutting me off. The email goes to his entire professional network. 200 contacts built over 30 years. Every investor, every client, every board member he knows. The implicit message reads, clear, don't help her, don't hire her, don't take her calls. I'm holding my second coffee when Eleanor's Instagram post appears. A family photo from Meredith Seal graduation. The three of them perfectly posed. I'm cropped out so cleanly you'd never know I existed. The caption, our little Yale Law Review star. So proud of Meredith's accomplishments. Family first. Proud mom. 37 likes in 5 minutes. Meredith posts 20 minutes later. An Instagram story. My apartment door closed. The number visible. Then a shot of the empty parking space where my car used to be. Her caption overlaid in that cutesy script font. When siblings choose different paths. Wishing her well. 300 views already. They're not just exiling me, they're erasing me. My boarding group gets called. I silence my phone, gather my carry-on. The Austin flight has already departed from the other terminal. Eleanor probably stood at the window watching it taxi away, believing I'm on it. The flight attendant scans my ticket. Welcome aboard, Miss White. Chicago waits. My corner office at Agricor. My penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan. My new life, built on their dismissal. The plane's engines hum to life. 9:00 a.m. Eastern. The Forbes article goes live. I'm somewhere over Indiana when my phone starts vibrating with such intensity it nearly walks across my tray table. Airplane Wi-Fi loads slowly, but the Forbes headline appears in crisp black text. Agricor acquires revolutionary ag startup Terrans for $8, $500,000. The subheading, 3-year-old founder, Rebecca White's irrigation algorithm promises to transform sustainable agriculture. My professional headshot fills half the screen. The one Professor Kalin insisted I take last month. Not cropped out, not erased front and center. The article details everything. The Callaway grant. The catastrophic farm test. The algorithm rewrite. The acquisition terms. My new title at Agricor Director of Sustainable Development. I refresh my LinkedIn. Professor Kalin's post appeared 6 minutes ago. Proud of my student Rebecca White. True innovation happens when brilliant minds refuse to accept failure as final. Congratulations on the Terrans acquisition. 43 shares already. Stanford's official account posted 5 minutes after that. The photo from the grant ceremony. Me holding the oversized check. Professor Kalin beside me, both of us grinning. Congratulations to Stanford environmental science alum Rebecca White on the successful acquisition of TerraSense by Agricor. Making a difference in sustainable agriculture. Agricor's announcement appeared at 9:00 a.m. Exactly. Professional, polished, welcoming. My bio highlighting the algorithm's efficiency improvements. My role leading the new Sustainable Development Division. Marcus's Twitter thread started simple. Honored to have worked with visionary founder Rebecca White on Terrancy. Watching brilliant people solve impossible problems never gets old. The counter-narrative builds itself. Organic, truthful, unstoppable. Arthur's assistant trying to reach him. Harrison Blackwood's office calling the house. Eleanor's charity board president leaving voicemails. I imagine Arthur in his office. His assistant showing him the Forbes article on her iPad. The color draining from his face. His phone ringing. Harrison Blackwood calling personally. ARR, why didn't you mention Rebecca's company? I would have invested $8.5 million. That algorithm could revolutionize precision agriculture. Eleanor at her Monday morning tennis lesson. Her phone lighting up with messages. Her charity board president delighted. Eleanor, we had no idea Rebecca was in technology. Can she speak at our spring gala? Our donors would be fascinated. Meredith in her Yale Law Library study room, her classmates approaching with confused smiles. Your sister sold her company. Why didn't you ever mention TerraSense? The family WhatsApp group erupts. I disabled notifications yesterday, but I check it. Now 37. New messages. Confused relatives. Congratulatory cousins. Awkward questions about why nobody knew. Aunt Patricia. Rebecca sold her startup for millions. Cousin Bradley. Wait, Rebecca's a tech executive now. Uncle Richard, why are we just hearing about this? The narrative crumbles in real time. Every careful lie, every dismissive comment, every cropped photo suddenly suspect. I save the Forbes article to my phone. Screenshot Professor Kalin's LinkedIn post. Archive. Agricor's welcome announcement. Evidence documentation proof. By the time my plane touches down at O'Hara, I have 43 missed calls, 16 voicemails, 62 text messages. Most from numbers I haven't heard from in years. 3 from Arthur's office line, 7 from Ella Laner's cell, 12 from Meredith. I don't listen to any of them. Not yet. My Chicago driver waits at arrivals with my name on a tablet. Professional, efficient. Nothing like Eleanor's suffocating surveillance. Welcome to Chicago, Miss White. The city skyline rises ahead. My new beginning built on their dismissal. Let them scramble. Let them call. I'm already gone. The letter arrives on a Tuesday morning, 2 weeks after they've stopped trying to reach me directly. Agricor's general counsel forwards it with a subject line that makes my coffee taste bitter. Legal matter. Requiring your attention. I open the PDF in my Chicago office. Lake Michigan stretches, gray and chopless, beyond my window. The letterhead belongs to Whitmore and Associates, the firm Arthur uses for his most aggressive negotiations. Formal demand for settlement re-terra sense intellectual property. The language is precise, calculated. Arthur's handiwork, dressed in legal terminology. They claim fiduciary interest in Terrans based on substantial family investment during development phase and creation of intellectual property while residing as dependent in family home. The $5,000 check is now seed funding establishing an equity stake in the venture. Their demand 30% of the acquisition price, $2.55 million or litigation. I read it twice. The audacity sits sharp in my throat. They handed me that check at the country club like it was charity. Severance pay for the family disappointment. Now it's venture capital. Now it's ownership. The phone on my desk lights up. Julian Vance calling from the executive suite. Upstairs. Rebecca. His voice carries the controlled frustration of a CEO protecting his assets. I assume you've seen the letter just now. Our lawyers tell me it's baseless. Your IP documentation is airtight, but they're making noise through back channels. He pauses. Eleanor White contacted 2 of our board members yesterday. Concerned calls about family disputes and your stability. My jaw tightens. Of course she did. Eleanor knows exactly which threads to pull. Meredith's drafting an op-ed. Julian continues something about startup ethics and family obligations. Her Yale credentials give it weight she doesn't deserve. I close my eyes. The coordinated assault. Arthur applying legal pressure. Eleanor working her social network. Meredith building the public narrative. The same synchronized performance from the country club, scaled up to match the stakes. What do you need from me, I ask. Nothing yet. Our PR team is drafting a response, vague but firm. We protect our people, Rebecca. His tone shifts, becomes almost paternal. But I need to know if there's any validity to their claim. Any verbal agreements, any family money that went into development, none. I have documentation for every dollar. The Callaway grant, my own savings. Nothing from them. Good. Relief colors his voice. Then we let the lawyers handle it. But after we hang up, I sit staring at that letter at the way. Repositioned $5,000 at Arthur's signature on the firm's authorization. My phone buzzes. A text from Professor Kalin. Seeing some chatter online. You okay? I don't answer. I open Twitter instead. Tech Twitter has picked up the story. Agrior's PR release hit an hour ago, carefully worded about meritless attempts to exploit a young founder. The replies are rallying around me, calling out the family dynamics, sharing their own stories of relatives who appeared after success. Someone's dug up Meredith's Instagram, the posts she deleted after Forbes, screenshots circulating with commentary about hypocrisy. Her Yale Law Review colleagues, distancing themselves in quote tweets. Carefully professional statements about not endorsing her forthcoming piece. Arthur's reputation bleeding out in real time. Investment blogs questioning his judgment. Colleagues wondering why he didn't recognize his own daughter's potential. I should feel vindicated. Instead, I feel the weight of what they're willing to destroy to get what they want. Their own credibility, their professional relationships, whatever remained of our family, all for 30% of something they called worthless 6 months ago. I forward Arthur's demand letter to my personal email. Read it again on my phone. The legal argument hinges entirely on that check they're seed funding their investment during development. The check I never cashed. I open my mobile banking app. The check image is still there in my deposit queue. Photographed, but never processed. $5,000 from Arthur White. Memo line. Fresh Start Fund. Not TerraSense Investment. Not Seed Capital Fresh Start Fund. Their own documentation betraying their claim. I could simply show Agrior's lawyers this image. Prove the check's true nature. Let them dismantle Arthur's argument in court filings and depositions. But that's not enough. That's playing their game on their terms. I tap deposit check. The app processes 30 seconds of loading screen. Then transaction successful. $5,000 deposited to your account. I screenshot the confirmation, the timestamp, the memo line, the full details. My hands are steady as I open my email. Forward the screenshot to Agricor's General Counsel with a brief note. For your records, full payment received and accepted. Then I compose a new email. Direct reply to Arthur's lawyer. CC. Arthur White Eleanor, White Meredith White. Subject your client's final payment. Body attached. Please find my acknowledgement of your client's payment. Thank you for finalizing this matter. All future correspondence can be directed to my legal counsel. I attach the screenshot. The deposited check, their investment accepted as exactly what they intended it to be. Payment severance, the price of my exile. My finger hovers over send. I think about 8 years old at the science fair. Meredith's piano recital. The accumulated sereners. The lifetime of being the daughter who understood sacrifice. I press send. The email whooshes into the void. 30 seconds later, my phone shows 3 red receipts. Arthur Eleanor Meredith. The silence that follows feels absolute. I go to my contacts. Find Arthur White. Press block. Find Eleanor White. Press block. Find Meredith White. Press block. My phone feels lighter without them. Outside my window, Lake Michigan catches the afternoon sun. The water turns silver. A sailboat cuts across the horizon, moving towards something I can't see. I save their letter, the demand, the threat. Everything documented like always, but this time, the documentation isn't defense, it's victory. They taught me to keep records, to be meticulous, to prove everything. They just never considered I'd use those lessons against them. 6 months later, morning light pours through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my Chicago penthouse, turning Lake Michigan into hammered silver. I'm drinking coffee from a mug Professor Kalin sent me, the one that says, "Data doesn't lie," in faded letters. My Terence Innovator Award sits on the bookshelf, half hidden behind a stack of industry journals. I didn't mount it on the wall. Didn't need to. The team photos from Agricor have replaced what used to be family portraits in my old apartment. People who actually see me when they look at my face. My calendar alerts ping. 3 meetings today. All of them matter. All with people who value what I built, not what last name I carry. The frame check hangs in my powder room. $5,000 preserved under glass, like the punchline it became. Guests always ask about it. I tell them it's a reminder that the best investments are the ones people make in themselves. Tonight is a Greyors holiday party. I'm speaking about failure and recovery, about how the catastrophic crop test in Fresno taught me more than any success could have. Young engineers need to hear that brilliance isn't avoiding mistakes. It's documenting them so precisely that you never make them twice. The venue glitters with that corporate holiday magic, all tasteful greenery and ambient lighting. I'm mid-story about rewriting the algorithm when I notice him approaching through the crowd. Harrison Blackwood, Arthur's most important client. The man who compared me to garden staff at the charity gala. He waits until I finish clapping with the others, then extends his hand. "Miss White, Harrison Blackwood, I heard your presentation at the Agretch Summit last spring. Remarkable work." I shake his hand. His grip is firm, respectful. He has no idea we've met before. The room doesn't stop. The conversation around us continues. But I feel that old tension try to surface, that childhood need for family validation, attempting one last resurrection. It dies quietly. Harrison launches into questions about soil sensors and predictive modeling. Technical questions, smart ones. He's done his homework. He sees the algorithm now, not the dust on my boots. Later, back in my office, I update my calendar. Monthly mentorship call with Professor Kalin tomorrow. Scholarship committee meeting for my Unlikely Innovators Fund at Stanford on Thursday. The fund targets students whose families don't understand their work. Students who need someone to believe in their data before they believe in themselves. Therapy is Wednesday. Still processing, still learning that systematic devaluation leaves marks even algorithms can't solve. A young intern stops by my door, hesitant. Maya, brilliant with systems architecture, uncertain about everything else. "Miss White, do you have a minute?" I wave her in. My family doesn't really get what I do here. She twists her visitor badge. "They keep asking when I'm going to get a real job. I just wondered if that ever happened to you." I close my laptop. Give her my full attention. "Sometimes distance is the greatest gift you can give yourself," I say. Not out of anger, out of preservation. Her shoulders drop half an inch. Relief. "You're doing real work here, Maya. Trust your data." She leaves lighter than she came in. I recognize that walk. I used to have it. Christmas Eve arrives with snow that doesn't quite stick. My phone shows 40 missed calls from numbers I unblocked but archived. I listened to the final voicemail once. Elainer crying. Actually crying. "We miss our daughter." "Rebecca, please. It's Christmas." I archive it without responding. My chosen family arrives at 7. Professor Kalin brings wine. Julian brings stories about the latest board meeting. Others from Agricor filter in, carrying food and laughter and the easy comfort of people who chose each other. We eat, we talk, nobody asks about my real family. Later, washing dishes, I catch my reflection in the dark window. Lake Michigan stretches behind me, vast and indifferent and beautiful. Same face they tried to erase. Same person they measured and found wanting. Still here, still building, still growing. Thank you for the seed money. I think you taught me I could grow anywhere, even in exile. Especially in exile. The silence I've earned settles around me like expensive cashmere.